Listen, we go way back. I don't even feel like this is like an interview of sorts. This is like a buddy of mine I haven't seen in years coming on the show, talking life. But like, I know you as a wrestler in high school, right? We go back to high school days together and we lost touch, as many people do. We were friendly, lost touch after that. College, knew each other a little bit, hung out. But, I say everyone has their hero story. And I didn't hear yours till recently. And I want to hear this story because what you're doing now with Man Movement, which we're going to jump into and is really exciting, is amazing. And I want to get that story. But what leads into Man Movement is what I feel people really want to hear. So tell us about Jerold's hero story and what got you to where you are today.
Oh, so juicy. Well, first of all,
So
thanks for having me on here. I think it's very interesting too how we go from the sound factory to the life factory.
yes.
You
Club
know, and
days
uh,
to real life.
and you know what? I kind of look back on it. I think it's great that you asked, what's the hero's journey? I think we as people forget that everything leading up to what I would call your moment, right, where curiosity came in, those were the crucial, important things that we needed to understand what the other side looks like.
Mm,
So if we didn't go into the crazy nights and not eating right and abusing our body, you probably wouldn't be sitting over there, the owner of innovative medicine, understanding how to heal the body because you wouldn't have had your why.
that's right.
Right. So now, when someone's like, I don't feel good and I don't know what to do, you're like, I know that feeling. You're
Mhm.
relatable. And for me, that happened in 2014. I had finished a decade of working in the entertainment and nightlife industry from New York to LA. And I was in Las Vegas, right? The Mecca.
Hmm.
I was working with the late, great Tony Hsieh and revitalizing Old City downtown. So you're around a billionaire, and I'm working with Ryan Doherty and Justin Winiger, who went on to create Life is Beautiful. And everyone would say, man, life is great. But there was an undercurrent of misery of like Groundhog's Day,
Hmm.
like every day, same thing, nightclub, bringing people out, dealing with brands. And although you grow through the sequence from promoter to creative director to brand development, you're still out. And if you're good at that, they'll never let you get away from being the guy that can connect people. And I remember just sitting there and I was like, oh man, I don't know if I can do another day of this.
Mm.
And I literally just went down to work and I called my boss, Ryan Doherty at the time, and I was like, yo, I quit. And he was like, yeah, all right, I'll see you tonight. Like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, no, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is just not serving me in any way. And that moment, there was like a couple of days, right, where I had downtime and I would go to this place called Mount Charleston, which is 30 minutes outside of Las Vegas. I call it the undiscovered gem. 8,500 feet up, you have pine trees, it snows. And there was these cabins that were like nestled into the mountain. And there was one restaurant at the top of the mountain called the Mount Charleston Lodge. No gas, no groceries, nothing. Just this one restaurant. And it's a 20-mile road up, single lane, 20-mile road back, single lane. And I'm sitting at the mountain after a hike and I would look at the houses and I would say, how do you think someone ends up living there?
Mhm.
And a voice just said to me, why don't you just drive up there? And there's always a sign that says, do not drive through the neighborhood. This is a neighborhood, don't drive through. But in this moment, a little bit of, intuition, I started driving. And as I'm driving through the neighborhood, this guy goes, puts a for rent sign out, literally as I'm driving by. So I stop my sports car, right? I'm up in the mountain range in a sports car. I back up and I get out and I'm like, hey man, is this house for rent? And the guy's like, well, that's what the sign says. Like, are you not observant? And this guy was a funny guy. He hand built this house like 20 years ago. And long story long, I ended up getting this 3-bedroom log cabin. And I went back to my bougie 1,700 square foot loft apartment in downtown, panoramic windows, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, to the owner, John Tippins, I was like, hey man, I'm going to live in Mount Charleston. He's like, damn, Jerry, you always got funny jokes. And I'm like, no, I'm serious. And he's like, I've never heard anyone that wants to live up there. If you really want to get out of your unit, no problem. You're a good guy. I'll just let you out. So like sequences of, okay, this is working. moved up to Mount Charleston, no internet, no TV. A good day would be maybe you can get a couple of scrolls on Instagram. You get like 2 or 3 pictures. And I'm a nightlife guy, you know, high sensory, everything happening. And now it's like, and I was just immersed myself in nature for 1 year. From that point, I had a dream that I always wanted to hike the Appalachian Trail. And being in nature and exploring and everything, this cultivated that dream to come to life. 2015, a year later, I just put everything in storage, finished my lease, told my mom that I was going to drive across the country to come say hello. You would think that your parent would be like, how are you going to get back? She didn't know I put everything in storage and quit my job. I ended up in Long Island. I told my mom I'm going to hike from Georgia to Maine on the Appalachian Trail, which is 2,189 miles. This is a guy who's done the most adventure I've done is car camping. You pull up to a spot, you get your wood, you know, you buy your fish from Whole Foods and I'm outdoors. And my mom was like, I'll do everything and anything to not have you go. You know, like, I'll give you money, go start a business. I was like, nah, I get to go do this, you know? And I was kind of thrilled by watching the movie Into the Wild. Not so much how he acted, but the footlooseness of out there, you know, and I just was encapsulated by that freedom. And I ended up doing the trail. It took me 150 days. And I believe that created a stillness, and it was the beginning of the journey. Because I didn't come back healed. I didn't do any work. I just calmed the nervous system. Because if you're out hiking in nature 20 miles a day for 150 days, what you do get is presence, awareness, right? But we haven't really layered down yet. In the interim of that, I did a couple of plant medicine ceremonies and dabbled in that world. And I think that opened up some more spirituality and whatnot. And when I came back from the Appalachian Trail, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. Somehow I ended up in San Francisco. A friend of mine gave me an opportunity to work in the ad tech industry. So, you know, right again, back in the matrix. Didn't really know what I was doing, but loved the idea of having work lined up. And I said, I'm going to try this. And for 4 years, I created a relative copy of Nightlife Jerry. He was just called Ad Tech Jerry. So the ego got fully fledged again. Money was rolling in like waterfalls and crushing deals and right back into that. But everything in life is a skill set that you get to bring in that you might use later on. And I see it in this part of my life. I did that for 4 years. It got me back to LA. I was living in a 17th floor condo on the beach in Santa Monica, hot girlfriend, fancy car, everything. People are like, what's your problem? Right? But why am I depressed? Like, why am I still fucking depressed? And the girl ended up leaving me, right? And I was like, breakdown central. Had no emotional intelligence skills, couldn't handle or process the idea of the unworthiness coming full throttle. What happens? I go on my eat, pray, love journey for dudes. I call it man tears. I end up on a plane like every other LA person. Where do I end up? Bali. 2 months in Bali, right? I don't even know what I'm doing. Why am I in Bali? A friend of mine is living out there, says, come out here, right? And I end up getting a place like literally walking distance from the yoga barn. I don't even like yoga, but I'm like, oh, I'm going to do yoga. It's going to heal me, right? But on the flight over, I read the book, The Surrender Experiment by Michael J. Singer.
Great book.
And yes, and I read, you know, you're on a plane for 20 something hours. It's like book done. And my feet hit the ground in Denpasar, which is like, you know, the big airport. The word was, we're going to surrender to everything. Like, I don't care. I'm a yes man. I'm like Jim Carrey. I'm the yes man, right? And I tried yoga. I went to every class and I just couldn't relate. And then I said, one more class. And I took a class with this guy, Carlos Romero. And this guy walks in, long dreadlocks, sacred geometry all over him, and like 20 instruments with a team carrying instruments. I'm like, who's this dude? Long story long, his class was so powerful. I loved every second of it. And I went up to him. I said, hey, man, I was going to leave, you know, and this I can't wait to take more of your classes. He goes, you should take my yoga teacher training. I said, when is it? He goes, starts tomorrow. And all I hear is Michael J. Singer go, surrender. And I said, cool, I'll sign up right now. And he goes, really? I go, yeah, I'm fully in. I'm enrolled. Let's go. I ended up taking yoga teacher training, and I believe that started healing the heart, right? Because I learned compassion for myself. From there, the stars aligned. I ended up wanting to go to India, and I've always wanted to do Vipassana. I apply. Within 10 minutes, I get an email back, you're in. I'm like, great. Here comes Southern New Delhi. I go to India, 10 hours a day, 10 days in silence, no eye contact, no books, no pens, no nada, and you sleep on a piece of wood. I didn't know this. I get there, and the room that they give me is room number 33. And the chair that happened to be in the room had a number 11 on it, which I thought was interesting because it took me 11 million steps to hike from Georgia to Maine. And 11 was always my favorite number. When I did research on it, number 11 is really the number 1, which is the number of mastery. 33 is the number of Christ consciousness, which is, your connection to the divine. So I go through this entire Vipassana, and, I really learned to see how much chatter was in my mind, how much I create stories in and around what is not real versus what I'm experiencing, right? So that helped process a lot of what I was going through. From there, I went to Varanasi, which is the oldest city in the world in India, hung out with sadhus, holy men, gurus, shamans, blah, 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 all the stuff, right? Looking for the quest. How do you love yourself? Heal me. Like every other person on earth. Heal me. Do it for me.
Right.
I end up in Peru in the jungles for the last month of my journey, where I sit with Shipibo shamans, ayahuasca for 4 days, combo, everything, great breakthroughs, great clarity. And I'm not taking away from any of those healing modalities. I think they're great. But from there, Machu Picchu, Rainbow Mountain, went to Samadhi, finished off with in Sacred Valley with the Wachuma ceremony. And finally, all this healing, I decide I'm going home, right? I go home. I end up in New York City, in Long Island, in my mom's house. So much for reality. Here it comes, right? My mom has calling me Maharaji every day, because I'm like, oh, Maharaji's up, like Italian mother, completely like, this guy's gone crazy. She's like, when are you going to get a job? When are you going to go to work? You're going to get a 401k, So from there, a friend of mine calls me, Gerard Adams, and says, hey man, I really need a guy to run my events. Do you want to come work for my company in LA? And I'm like, oh my God, yes. Get me out of my house. Mm-hmm. Jan 1, I'm back in LA. Staying at a friend's. I manifest my dream house in Topanga Canyon. I move all the way up to the top of Saddle Peak, the top. My only one neighbor happens to be Seal the singer. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm like, Jerry, you've hit gold. You're working for a millennial multimillionaire, conscious entrepreneurial ship. Your neighbor Seal, you've arrived. Mm-hmm. Within a blink of a light, COVID comes. Mm-hmm. Job goes away. Now you're in an apartment. You just spent $30,000 traveling the world. You're paying that off. And now you're like, the fumes are coming in. Oh my God, how am I going to make this happen, right? Now here's the breakthrough. All those months of traveling, I had tools now. So instead of panic, I went into surrender. Mm. I went into acknowledgement of what was happening. And I just would go outside and I'd sit in that land and I'd say, what's for me is to be. And I said, I'm not scared, I'm available. And I heard something in my soul say, why don't you write down the most powerful experiences that transformed your life? Focus on that. So I started writing. What were the things that really pivoted me? And I came up with 12 experiences, 12 things that were so important. Commitment, self-love, AM/PM rituals, service, the divine feminine, so on and so on, right? But I had no idea what I was going to do with them. And then I said, well, could I teach this to people? Then the rackets came up like, well, you're not a coach. And then I'm like, well, what makes someone a coach? You don't get a degree. It's not like I'm going to give someone injectables and stuff. Like I have to have a license, right? Everyone's a coach. And next thing you know, I thought, well, what would I want to do? And I want to work with men. And the idea of a movement came up. And I said, maybe Man Movement. That could be a cool name. And then I said, you know what? Let's make it interesting because of the fashion and nightlife background. I took the A, flipped it upside down. I said MVN. Okay, that's cool. That's a movement, Man Movement. Oh, cool. Available on GoDaddy. I go on Instagram, available on Instagram. Next thing you know, I say, okay, look, here's the intention. I'm going to call in 33 men. And I don't know how. I don't have a click funnel. I don't have a website. I don't have nothing. I'm just going to find 33 men and I'm going to enroll them in this vision. And if these men go on a journey with me for 90 days and I transform them through mind, body, spirit, and service, and they leave a different version of themselves, I'm onto something. So I had no idea what I was doing. I just said, I'm going to find these guys. I find 33 guys. I called people from like Maddie from my childhood. Maddie, I haven't spoken to you in a decade. I'm doing this thing. I want you to be in it. All right. Okay. I take these guys on a journey. Then we have graduation. And when I listened to what they said on that call and the way I felt inside to see another person experience transformation, I said, this is better than any celebrity I've ever hung out with, any model I've ever dated, any paycheck that I got that was 6 figures, whatever it is, this trumps it beyond. And I said, this is where I want to invest the rest of my time and energy on this planet, is in transformation. And I did 1 container, I did 2, now I'm in 3. I'm about to launch 4. And it's been an ongoing process of healing through these men. And the men that come forward are always versions of me that I've played before. So the relatability is there. And I'm always learning, right? Always expanding, always seeing where I can go on the journey and always investing in myself. And it's been a beautiful process. It moved me from Topanga to Austin, Texas, where I never thought I'd live. I never thought I'd be surrounded by some of the most powerful men in self-development, like Preston Smiles, Garen Jones, Stefanos Anandos, all these epic men. And how they got in my life, I can't explain it. Other than when I put love at the forefront of everything I do, it came to me. When I was a reacher, I never got anything. And that is the encompassment of the work, right? The work you're doing, the work I'm doing is all about how do we serve people when it doesn't serve ourselves?
Yeah. And there's so much in that mention of surrender, right? That ability to do that and then see what the universe conspires for you and allow it to happen. And even like you said, that doesn't mean it's just going to all fall into place. At times it absolutely did for you and it fell into place how you wanted it. Other times COVID came around and threw a huge wrench in that for you. And that became incredibly difficult, but led you somewhere else, right? That transmutation of going into a lower state to get to a higher state is a beautiful thing as well. And I think where you started this story and something I want to get a little bit into is this idea of intuition. We know from a feminine standpoint, women have better intuition than men. It's just something that's been talked about so much. I wonder if you could challenge that men have a wonderful intuition. We've just moved away from it through things like toxic masculinity and other things and feeling that we shouldn't. And with that said, I want to know why you honed in on men versus just the general population of people you think you could help as well. But I'd love to hear why it's the man movement in general.
That's a great question. I never was around men. My whole life was women. Nightlife is women, right? It's all about get the women in the club, get the women. There's nothing wrong with that. The version of me in digital advertising was all about proving I'm enough through money, through growth, through apartments, through cars. And it was all about getting the divine feminine to acknowledge the unworthiness in me so I could feel worthy. And I knew my work was surrounding myself in men. And I didn't have a plan. That's what's interesting, right? I didn't say like, I'm set out to be a men's empowerment coach. That's the one thing I didn't do this time. For anyone listening, is like, people are like, well, you gotta have a plan. And the interesting thing is when I was hiking on the trail, my mantra was the plan is to have no plan. Because people would say, what are you doing today? And I'd say, I don't know, but I know I'm walking. I know I'm walking. And I know the end point is Katahdin Mountain. That's all I know. But I'm available. That's when life turns the dial. And when you were speaking, there was something that came up that was like, bing, share this with people. When I was building the man movement, my money was going like this. I mean, we're talking down to like, bro, you have like $100 in your bank account. What the? Right? And my old boss, Ryan Doherty, calls me right in that moment. Come to Vegas. I'm opening up 5 new spots. I want you to like come and see him. And I'm like, well, I want to see you regardless, but my inner compass is like, oh, not this again. So I fly out there, hanging out with him. He's a great guy. I love him, right? So I always want to be around Ryan, just a fun, amazing human being. And he showed me these places, and I'm like, yeah, this is great, you know? And my inner me is like, oh, really? Nightlife Jerry, you're going to be him again? All this work? Eat, pray, love for dudes to go back to this? Damn. So he tells me, all right, I'm going to make you an offer. And I'm going to call you in like a week or so, right? I'm like, all right. And I go back to Topanga, and I'm sitting there in my house like this. This can't be happening. And my phone rings. It's one of my mentors. His name is Ken Owen. What are you doing, young man? What's up, K-Bear? You know, I'm working, you know, this and that. I might go back to Vegas. And is that what you want to do? I said, no, that's not what I want to do. And he said, why are you wasting your time doing things that don't make you feel love? I said, well, I got to make money. He said, that's your problem? I said, in the moment, yeah. He said, I'll call you right back. Okay. 5 minutes later, I get a phone call from this woman, Laura. And now I'm thinking, who's Laura? Is her husband going to be my first client for MVN Movement, right? She says to me, well, when Ken Owen calls me and tells me to drop everything and do a favor, I drop everything and do a favor, right? Because Ken has that power of enrollment. And she said, I run an SBA PVP loan company. Tell me about your finances. I said, what finances? I fucking haven't worked in a year. She does some magical wizard shit. And within 15, 20 minutes of a phone call, she says, cool, I just got you $17,000. I said, what? She said, yeah, you get it in 48 hours. Just sign documents when they come. What? 48 hours, I have $17,000 in my bank account. And I was like, oh my God, literally, oh my God, I'm good. I'm good for like 4 or 5 months. Just serve now. That happened again. Except it was $47,000 the next time. And people were like, you know, will say to you like, well, that was, you know, a rare thing. Was it? Or was it when you are in alignment with what your soul's compass is supposed to do, you will be provided for. Maybe not in money, maybe in experience, maybe in joy, maybe in whatever it is. And I can tell you that same feeling happens over and over again, where the money's high and then it's down. But what I've learned through this whole process, and what I would love for people listening to this thing is, and you embody this so much. So what I love about you, Casper, so much is you're a massive giver. And there's no surprise that your life is magic. That you drive the car of your dreams, that you have the business of your dreams, that people love to be around you, that you just emulate joy because you give so much. And like today I went, my bank account was low. I thought of you at the coffee shop. I said, yo, do you have gift cards here? And they said, yeah. I said, cool, give me $100 gift card. And they said, okay, cool. And then I said, gave it back. I said, the next people that come through here, tell them someone loves them that they don't even know. And the guy goes, are you sure? I go, I couldn't be any more sure. I wasn't abundant when I did that. That's when it matters. That's when the work matters, not when you're at the yoga barn in Bali drinking Jamba Juice and everyone is love and light. That's when the work doesn't matter. It matters when you come here and you're on the 405 and someone gives you the finger in their Porsche and you look at them and say, God, I love you so much.
Mm.
And that's been the mission of the man movement. Men get to be like that. Men get to say, when they get fired, they get to look at their boss and say, thank you. I'm full of gratitude for being let go. When their wives say, I cheated on you, thank you. I'm the creator of the cheating. Where did I cheat myself?
And that's something men need, right? That's something men right now need. And you know, it's not to say that women don't need it as well. Humanity may need a little bit more of that, and a little bit more of that self-love is really an act of giving. It becomes that way. And that idea of self-love, self-care that leads to health is really about embodying other people into that we live with other people. And it's not just only about you. But that's really difficult when we're either in a state of fear, where we're sick already, right? It's like people will look at me and you right now and be like, yeah, but you guys got it, right? You guys are living the life or whatever. And it's easy for you to talk this way when you're not in a state of like, you know, depression, or you're really sick, chronically ill, family problems. It's like, I don't know about you, but I have those still. Like, those aren't gone. I have family problems. I have depressive. I have lots of doubts. I work really hard to keep myself healthy, but that's not to say I don't have bouts where I am unhealthy. No one is ever on one side. There is a polarity to life. You deal with things all the time. Challenges are very personal sometimes. You don't know what anyone is going through. But what do you teach people, especially like in the man movement and these guys in there, if they come to you with that? If they're like, Jerold, you just don't get it. You're living such a supreme life. I'm not. How do I embody that when I'm not that way like you?
Yeah. You know, you get to love them, right? Because men are different than women in so many ways, right? Men cannot hear that they're broken.
Mm.
That's the biggest turnoff. You cannot say to them, I see that your life's like this, and then you get to heal, right? That's a turnoff. They have to come to that scenario on their own. So I just become the conduit in curiosity to get them answer the question that is the big elephant in the room. When I asked them a single thing, I said, what is the one thing stopping you from having everything you want? I don't have enough money. I go deeper. My wife took my kids and I have to pay alimony. Go deeper. My boss never saw me as an asset. Go deeper. Finally, after the surface goes away, they say, it's me, presto. You're the creator of everything. So if you could create all this negativity, where are you enrolled in the idea that you can create all this beauty as well? Because every darkness needs light, every light needs darkness. Once they get to the point of realization that it's them, they understand the difference between responsibility and victim. Mm. See, the victim, it's you. It's my wife, it's my boss, it's my kids, it's this, it's that, blah, blah, blah. Your life's better. Responsible goes, I'm willing. I'm willing to look in the mirror and say, Jerry, it's you. You're responsible. That's ownership. There's the power. Now we're coming home. All I do from that moment is the next 90 days is I encompass you in love, and I give you the one voice in your life that will not allow you to break your commitments. I will be that guy that says, look how you show up. You told me you were committed to excellence, but you didn't get on that call today. What was more important in your life than you? Oh, I had a business meeting. Own it. You're not committed. You're not. You want to be a millionaire? Millionaires don't break commitments. You want to be a great dad? Dads don't break commitments. They live in excellence. And the way excellence is served is through mind, body, spirit. And the key, here's the key that men miss: service. How do you show up when life gives you a Mike Tyson uppercut? Can you love deeply when there's nothing to gain for yourself. That is the frequency that I'm so enrolled in. And I didn't come up with that. Someone that I have so much respect for, his name's Garen Jones. He gave me this book recently called The Power. And it's like a prerequisite to The Secret, right? And I'm sure everyone's like, manifestation, blah, blah, blah. But the nugget in there was, what vibration are you going to live on? Are you enrolled in drama, negativity, gossip, side talk, finger pointing, blaming, or are you enrolled in love? And Garen is an ultimate giver. And his story is incredible, from homeless to jail to being one of the #1 sellers in Herbalife, being a multimillionaire. But the thing about Garen is when he walks into a room, he's got that thing. People are like, and he gives and gives and gives and gives, relentless giver. And I said, that's what I'm going to invest in, is how much can I pour into every guy that comes into my way? Because there's better coaches than me, of course. But can I love every guy for where they are in their journey so they can see that they are enough? And that's the vision and why it's a movement versus it's a course. It's an experience. And guys go like this through the course. Some excel at the 100-mile challenge, right? Because they're great doers. Then they get to forgiveness and they're like, I still haven't wrote my letter. Here's your breakthrough.
And that's such a parallel to what I see with patients, medicine, everything, right? Sickness, it's just a parallel of life. There is no like linear healing, like just give me the pill, I'll be better, and that's it. You'll be good in a few weeks and life goes on. Like, no, it's ups, it's downs. It is doing the hard work, and it is not becoming a victim to your disease, but empowering yourself to say, I am responsible for it in some way. It's not to put guilt or shame on you or anything like that, but it's always to take that power and love yourself so much to know that you have the power to get out of this as well. If you got into this way, if you're dealing with a really complex chronic disease, you do have the power to turn it around. And once you realize that, that's a really, really significant moment in everything. But then there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. If you want to reclaim your health, you want to reclaim happiness and true health of body, mind, spirit, you're going to have to put in the hard work, and you're not going to have to just delegate that to someone else. And I'm sure you hear it, because in many ways we say doctors should act like coaches. They are not there to do the healing. They're there to guide you, to serve as catalysts, inspire you in some ways, provide you with the right tools, right? But then you got to do the work. Do you find that it's difficult for men at certain stages to do that work versus a woman? Because what I heard there is something, again, I see a lot of times. You start maybe on the body side. You give people who have, Lyme disease, whatever it is, the IVs to start to detox themselves, antimicrobials, nutrition, because they're deficient. You give them a diet. They follow that really well. They're into it, the exercise part of it. Then you say the emotional side's coming up. You have to address that. That's incredibly important. They say, no, it's not. It's like one of these things like that has nothing to do with my disease, my relationship with my mother or my wife. I don't want to address that. And it suddenly becomes this almost macho thing of like, what do my emotions have to do with my health? And it's like everything. That is probably the initiation point of a majority of illness. And men sometimes, have this really hard. Do you see that within your movement, and how are you addressing that emotional vulnerability that a lot of people feel is not masculine to show that vulnerability?
Wow, so much there. So much was spinning while you were talking. The three things that I've seen men struggle with the most, and now almost coaching over 100 men in my first year of business, was self-love, worthiness, and inner confidence. They're all tied together. When you think of self-love, and you think of what you were talking about, nutrition, ways of being, right? If you don't love yourself, you're eating Whataburger
Mm-hmm.
every day. If you don't love yourself, you're drinking caffeine first thing in the morning. If you don't love yourself, you don't look at the gift of life. You don't care because you don't care about yourself. But we translate it in different ways, right? I'm going to make money. Now I'm going to have confidence. I'm going to get the dream girl. Now I have worthiness. But it's a false summit. It's not real. The way these things happen, right? Because I went on that journey. How do you love yourself? And I went to shamans, tarot card readers, healers, mystics. I went to guys in Bali with fingernails curled up in a bag. Oh, son, let me tell you, right? And how do you love yourself? Tell me the secret. And I found out, like you said, the hard work builds the micro steps into the self-love, worthiness, and inner confidence. When you say yes to clean eating, you're saying, I matter. When you say yes to not jerking off to Pornhub all the time, you say, my seed is power. Right? When you say no to not watching porn, you say, I'm invested in the goddess frequency. I want my queen, so I'm going to emulate beauty, essence, high vibration, someone that when I'm sick is going to hold my hand at my deathbed and say, I got you. Okay? These are the micro steps, and men go, give me the pill. I want it now. What's the answer? I said, the answer is every day. Choosing into these things versus choosing out of them. And how you play that game is how you play the game of life. And my experience of men is that they all say they want it. It brings us back to my days in wrestling, right? When you were ninth grade and you go into the varsity restroom and Al Bevilacqua sat you down along the infamous blue wall at Mass Speaker Wrestling and said, how many people want to be a county champ? Everyone raises their hand. Who wants to be a state champ? They all raise their hand. Who wants to be a national champ? Who wants to win Olympic gold? And Al will look at everyone and say, there's only one guy in this room who really believes that. And you get curious, like, what do you mean? There's only one guy in the room that actually is enrolled in every step that would take to have that level of achievement. Every other guy just wants to say it. So when guys say, I want to heal, I want that life. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Show me. Show me. How do you show up in the group? Because a group setting, that's how we heal. Because everyone's great as an individual. But when you're going through it, can you support your fellow brother? Can you call everyone in the group and say, how can I support you? Can you be of service when your life is down? See, these are all a metaphor to life. And why men get to do that together? Because men, and you said it, get to see that vulnerability is your superpower.
Mm-hmm.
When you could say to another man, dude, my biggest fear is that I'll never love myself. My biggest fear is that, my wife will never see me as a king. My biggest fear is that my kids will think LeBron James is their hero and not me. There is a surrender in that takes the boogeyman out of the closet, because now it's not as powerful because you have spoke it. And why we do that in a group is so every man, when they face off with the thing they don't want someone to know, they realize, holy shit, I'm not alone. Almost every guy in this group suffers from a lack of self-confidence. Every guy in this group is struggling with self-love. Every guy in this group has a worthiness thing. Oh my God. And then we unite and we say, are you the symbol of what your children will look up to 10, 20 years from now? Because that's my vision. My vision is, if I ever get blessed with children, or I don't, will the young ones that are coming up, will this, what we're doing right now, this conversation, the Empowered Brotherhood here in Austin, the man movement, will that be the new standard to what masculinity looks like? I can go out gracefully knowing that. I don't need the $1 billion check. I don't need to be Jeff Bezos. I don't need to be the late great Steve Jobs. I don't care. But let me be a Martin Luther King. Let me be a Mahatma Gandhi. Let me be a Mother Teresa. Because it's the ripple effect. It's more potent than anything. Money, you don't get buried with your Ferrari. But you do take your legacy. And all I think about...
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but this just, opens up the door of what is health in a sense, right? As a man, I think and as a human being, I'll say this. We usually define health as a lack of symptoms or not having a diagnosis or disease. But I always saw it as, if you're not happy, you're not healthy, right? You're a patient then. If you don't have purpose, you're not healthy. You're also a patient of some sort then. Maybe you don't need a pill for some kind of, ailment or pain in your body, but it's a pain in your soul. It's a pain in your spirit. It's a pain in your mind. And I think that's where the real pandemic and epidemic of everything is happening. Because you talk about, if you're going to go into this virus, a certain percentage are affected by it and this and that. I think it's the majority of people are affected by this, by the idea of suffering internally on a daily basis, living the Groundhog Day. Every day is the same and feeling a little bit more dead inside every day. Not understanding and appreciating how to be truly vulnerable, how to open yourself. And guess what? That chips away your energy all the time. That is leading into a biochemical reaction that one day may become cancer or some kind of, chronic illness.
100% enrolled in that.
And that's why I do believe what you're doing is so important, because it is prevention. If you were to look at medicine and say, how could we really bring down healthcare costs? It's like, stop trying to manage disease and prevent it at its core. Do things that will bring people to a joyous and happy place where disease cannot live in that state. And so what you're doing, I think, is so powerful. Now, I know you talk about different types of personality types, and I did want to touch on that because I'm always fascinated by what people come up with, right, in all this. And I'm a big Myers-Briggs fan, so INFJ is really personal to me, and other people have the archetypes, right, and Enneagrams and everything. But you came up with 4: a CEO, athlete, family man, and wanderer. How'd you come up with those?
I played them all.
I was going to ask, are these like things we all embody?
Listen, I'm always open to other things. Like I have my boys from Sacred Sons, right? They do the king, the mystic, the wizard, right? My vision, because I came from nightlife and entertainment, and then I was in ad tech, right? The two biggest things, right? Because everyone's on a phone with their apps, and everyone wants to be seen and heard and in the limelight. My vision was, I don't need the guy that's going to yoga every day, right? Who's already green juicing and is doing, pranayama. He's already enrolled. I need the guy that's snorting cocaine at the club, that's hunting women and saying, I'm going to get wasted tonight. That's the guy I want to heal. Because that was me. Not that I did the cocaine, but, that's the guy that needs the work. So how are you going to get that guy to look at this and go, I ain't enrolled in that hoobie-jooby bullshit? Mm-hmm. It had to become relatable, right? I was the CEO. I didn't play the family man, but I have so many people that are. Maddie, my boy Luke, all my friends that have kids. I've seen that. I understand that I don't have time. My kids are my life. I don't got time for help. I don't got time. I got to provide. I'm the provider, right? They're number 2 to their own dreams. The wanderer, the Appalachian Trail, Bali, right? The escape artist. They're all me. The athlete. So what I did was I said, I want to make it relatable to the guy that goes, yeah, that's me. I'm in the office 17 hours a day. I'm trying to crush it like Gary Vee. My dream is that when I make the money, my life is good. But everything suffers. He doesn't have connection. Everything is about him. Selfish. My dream, my vision, my growth, my money. At the core of it. Yeah, they say, oh, I'm making a product that's going to change the world. Bullshit. It's about you, bro. The wanderer, he can't get rooted. Everything's an adventure, an experience, this and that. But the idea of staying and rooting in community, No, because then I'm going to be seen. The family man, we already said this guy. Everyone's more important than him. There's no balance. He doesn't balance. It's all about everyone else. Yeah, I'm going to fill everyone else's cup, and then I'll fill mine. The athlete, he's only seen through accomplishments. What's next? Oh, I did the 50 miler. Now I'll do 100. I did 3 Ironmans in a calendar year, March, April, May, in a row. Why? Prove. I'm going to prove to me that I'm man enough. At the core of it, you might not say it, but at the core of it, there is something there that you're doing. Now, the other side of the coin is you might just like to do an Ironman. So there's no indefinites that this is what I'm saying is the truth. But I wanted to find the man that can relate to one of these or all of these, so his curiosity would kick up and say, well, what could be possible for me if I tried this journey? Because all those aspects are valuable. What would be so potent if the CEO turned his agenda from an I to a we? So he took his skills of creating and manifesting and growing businesses, but made it about impact and legacy versus dollars in the bank account. He could change the world. What if the family man learned boundaries so he could recharge and reset and grow so he could be a better dad, a better husband? What if the wanderer could stop running away from adventures, right? Get rooted in community and share his experiences to enroll other people to live a life of adventure? What if the athlete did sports and goals as a place of fulfillment rather than a medaling and a thing of accomplishment to feel worthy? And the worthiness was in the journey, the experience, the training, and that winning and losing is not an option because it doesn't exist anymore. It's the experience of putting your foot on the track, hearing the gun, running, and regardless if a gold medal or no medal, you showed up. So I wanted to get away from archetypes that people who are at the Win at Tryst nightclub are not going to go, I'm not a fucking wizard. What do you mean? I'm a king? I'm always a king. Like, it's not relatable. This is relatable.
I agree. I think being able to identify, right, someone with yourself with that, it's incredibly important. I think that's a big problem, I think, in general right now, is a lot of times when you do kind of, whether you talk science, like, you know, that's, again, I bring it all back to medicine. That's why I know, and I want to like link it in with what you're working, because I do feel so many people that are going through medical treatments, that are going through disease, sickness, or just getting the symptoms or looking to prevent something their father or, you know, mother had, can utilize someone like you. But I just see medicine as being so unhumanistic and unrelatable. It's like you looking at the things on a plot and using big, you know, words with enzymatic functions and TGF1 and all this, and people are just like, I don't even know. Like, I don't even feel like I'm human anymore. It's like, am I a machine? Just cut me open, right? Or just give me a pill and make me better. But the idea of humanizing medicine, to me, of showing you are a person, you are a complete being, so individual, so unique, no one else like you, and you can get yourself to a better state, and just really making it relatable by things like this, and speaking to someone like they are in fact a human, and be like, yeah, you're more of that athlete. You don't see that? You were such a great athlete here, and you're still doing things all the time and playing sports all the time. Like, people like, yeah, I get that. I could empathize with that. I could really feel that, as opposed to just looking at a chart with lab results and be like, wait, this is what's wrong with me. This number here is what's wrong with me. It's like, no, right. That's not really it. That, if anything, there's something deeper that's more humanistic than that is causing that to happen. You're just seeing the very, very downstream stuff here. So I really do appreciate that. I appreciate that you're able to make it so relatable, and you're making it so humanistic, because we need to go back to that. We are not just machines anymore. We are not just numbers. We are not data points. We are not evidence. I love everyone's like, follow the science, the evidence. It's like, All right. I mean, we have enough evidence out there. Shouldn't we all be healthy, happy, six packs, millionaires? Like, if we just follow the evidence, there's obviously enough out there that shows us what we should be doing, but that's not the case. It's follow the experience of life, the journey of it, and finding it out. So, can you like? I want to hear about what goes on because I'm sure people are interested now, especially men listening to this and saying, "All right, well, maybe I'm a wanderer, maybe I'm this and that." Okay, Jerold, like I see all that. What's going to happen in 90 days to help me figure stuff out? Like, what am I going through? Can you go like walk it through a little bit of what people can experience going through the man movement?
Yeah, I mean, it's 90 days is it's a very compressed,
Yeah.
challenging program. I ask a lot of these men because we only have 90 days. Could it be longer? Maybe. Will it change? I don't know. Right now, it's 90 days and it's intense because transformation is intense. And what is available in those 90 days is you learn tools to better serve yourself, to live in your highest expression, right? You also get to face off with what triggers you versus what doesn't trigger you. So when we get to a lesson and you have a wall around it, or you're not enrolled in doing it, here's the medicine. Let's face off now. The group coaching allows you the space each week to see and compare and to be in a community of brotherhood to know you're supported. We also break off into mini groups, and each guy has an accountability buddy because the accountability buddy is a mirror to how you show up in life, right? Then you have your one-on-one coaching with either me or the support coaches. That's where we get to dive a little bit deeper into what's going on each week. The course is really just a metaphor for life because you get to see where you show up and where you don't, where you play victim and where you play responsible. We learn a lot of really powerful tools to eliminate the stories. Like one big thing you'll learn is if the call is at 12 noon and you show up at 12:01, own your broken commitment. And guys will go into it. Oh, my kid was getting ready and and I ask them all the time. If I was Elon Musk and you had a meeting with me at 12 o'clock, would you be on 12:01? No way. Well, why do you show up for him on time, but you don't show up for you on time? Because you don't see yourself as the king. You see yourself as the joker. But you see Elon as the king because you created a story around his worthiness, but not your own. And then you see the excuse train. But when we own it, so guys, you'll learn how to change your verbiage. If you hear me, I don't say I need to. I say I get to. I choose to. I'm enrolled in. I'm creating personal power. When these guys get on these calls and they're late, they get into, I want to acknowledge my broken agreement. I said I would be here at 12. I came at 12:01. What I'm committed to moving forward is ownership. These men get to become men. Stop being little boys. Little boys say, Mommy, I'm sorry. Your boss is not going to care about your sorry. He's not. So we learn ownership and we learn the tools to better ourselves. And we learn that brotherhood, vulnerability, and support is what you get to have your breakthrough. But the interesting thing about the program, and any guy listening, is you have to be willing. You have to be committed. I cannot put that fire in your belly. Could I inspire you? Sure. But when the call's over, there's no more inspiration. You get to be your own hero. So men have to be at this point in their life where they say, this doesn't work. I want more. I'm curious. Curiosity is the feeder to light the fire. Let's get curious about how we show up. Let's get curious about my experience in this world. And you get all ages of men. I have guys 52. I have guys 22. But we're all chasing the same thing.
And that's the beauty and the curiosity. the what ifs that we should be, that so many times self-doubt just pushes down, right? When we know that, in a sense, that comes from the gut or the heart. Meanwhile, in the mind, that's all programmed incorrectly, in a sense. The self-doubt comes in and says, that's not realistic. You'll never be healthy again. Just take the pill. Or you can never do that. You can never be happy again. Just be okay with not being completely depressed, right? And we do that so much. But that childlike curiosity go into something and say, but what if? Is this really lighting me on fire? And I think that's where people need to, sit down with themselves and realize, do I want to do Jerold's Man Movement? Is that really beckoning to me, right? And just really keep, sit with yourself for a little bit and be like, I do want to explore something greater in myself. I do want to take myself out of, a disease state some way.
Yeah.
And that's really important. Once you do that, then it is about the commitment. What am I willing to do to get there, right? How much am I really willing to put in? The beautiful thing is you've, and other people like you, have made it very easy. You're not alone. You don't have to start at zero. That's scary. I get it. But through your own experiences, through so many others that you've taken in, you're starting at a much higher level. And then you have a community, you have accountability. So you have people. So I'm a huge fan of everything you're doing and kind of, these ideas of movements that happen in groups and community, because they really do get better results that way. And it does challenge people to become their best selves. And there's nothing healthier than truly exploring the best self you could be. So, Jerold, man, awesome job with everything you're doing here. Tell us more about where we can learn about you, the Man Movement, like sign up, what's next, all of that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I want to leave your listeners with a question that someone asked me, which changed the trajectory of my life. The person said, what would get you out of bed every day, but you don't need a paycheck to do it? And I said, what do you mean? I got to get paid. And he said, no. What would get you out of bed every day, but you don't need a paycheck to do it? The question relies around the idea of what is your passion? Because when you understand your passion, you understand your purpose. And at the intersection of passion and purpose lies your greatness. So all men get to ask themselves, if this wasn't about the paycheck, would I do it? And that's the curiosity. Let that fester. Really sit around and think about that. Where can they find Man Movement? Well, you can go to MVNmovement.com. We will be opening up enrollment for container number 4. I'm going to open it up on the 1st of August. The group will launch in October. We only take 33 guys, so there's an application process. We do that for a specific reason. The group gets to be energetically all in alignment. So you can apply there. What I would like to do for all your amazing listeners is anyone, when they apply, says, how did you hear about us? If they mention this podcast, I'll give them $500 off tuition.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And listen, I think so many people need this right now. Now more than ever, right? It's just, I go around and I see people come in here into our center, and it's just, they aren't sick in the normal way, right? It is like, hey, I've been to every specialist. They can't figure it out. They're sick because they lost their purpose. They lost their passion. They lost all these things. They lost their masculinity in a sense. They lost the ability to get in touch with themselves. And that's just manifesting into some sort of sickness that's very different than what we're used to in medicine, which is all biochemistry. Like, what is it? And it's like, no one could figure it out. And that's something that requires you to have the right person, the right movement in a sense to figure out. And that's something you're doing. So I do hope any listener, if you're having that crisis of yourself, that crisis of even masculinity, of trying to figure out what's going wrong, there's something inside you could feel that just isn't right. Explore it. Explore it with a group, explore it with others that have been there and can support you and tap into that vulnerability, which will set you free. So incredible stuff, man. I love that we've gone full circle knowing each other way back as little kids and coming back here and talking about these deep things that I don't think we ever thought we'd be talking about when we were in that gym class in high school together and just like kind of doing it. So listen, man, best of luck to you. I'd love to come out to Austin, party it up there the healthy way now, right? And do it all good and meet up. But for anyone listening, please go check out the Man Movement, check out Jerold's work. This is really important stuff. And I hope you could, use it to make you healthier, happier as you continue your healing journey. So Jerold, thank you again, man.
Dude, thank you so much. And yeah, it's mind blowing that like we used to literally play at your house and do all these like funny things as a kid, and now just to watch you as a man really making incredible impact in your life. And my invitation for you is you have a very powerful story, and I feel like the world gets to hear it. So let that be a seed that I plant, that you get to share your transformation and where you've come from, everything you've experienced in your life, to the great empowering man that you are now. And I really believe that'll help a lot of people.
I truly appreciate that. And right back at you, brother.
Thank you.
Keep doing your thing.